I fired her and she thanked me and hugged me. Have you ever stayed in a job longer than you knew you should? Tell me yes or no in the comments. Work has gravity, and once you're inside that pull, your thinking narrows to fit it. You optimize for what your environment rewards. You stop questioning whether the environment itself even makes sense for you. You just get better at surviving it. And that's the trap, because survival starts to feel like progress. You tell yourself you're gaining experience, building skills, being patient, but a lot of the time you're just adapting to something that isn't moving you forward, and you don't leave, even if you're dealing with burnout, boredom, or feeling stuck. Are you dealing with any of those things right now? Leave a comment. And if you're trying to figure that out, I put together a free career reset workbook that walks you through exactly what to do next. It's linked in the description. And you might still be at work, not because you consciously choose to stay there, but because the inertia keeping you there is stronger than dissatisfaction. Getting fired breaks that inertia instantly. It forces reevaluation you were avoiding. So let's just break the illusion on this. Most people don't leave jobs when they should. They leave when they have to. So one backwards happy thing about getting fired is this: it removes your ability to tolerate something that probably wasn't working in the first place. And tolerance is more dangerous than failure. Tolerance keeps you stuck in roles where your strengths aren't visible. Tolerance keeps you around managers who don't advocate for you. Tolerance keeps your reputation flat. Invisible people don't get options. When you're fired, that invisible state gets disrupted. You are forced back into the market, and the market sees you differently than your last company did. That's important. Inside a company, your identity gets fixed early. People decide what and who you are: reliable, quiet, average, high potential, difficult. And once that label sticks, it's really hard to change in the company. Your effort doesn't fully reset perception. It gets filtered through it. So you can be improving and still not be seen as improving. That's where people get this wrong. They think performance alone moves them forward, but perception is the real scorecard. Getting fired resets perception. Not completely, but enough. Because now you're a candidate again, not an employee with a history. And candidates are evaluated differently. Your story is now editable. Your past becomes framed, not observed. That's leverage. You can reposition yourself in ways that weren't possible internally. You can target roles that now better match how you want to be seen. And you can emphasize different strengths. You can change industries, environments. None of that happens easily when you stay put. Now, listen, I'm not saying getting fired doesn't suck. I'm just telling you there is a bright side to it because it forces this type of change. Work and staying with one company compresses your sense of possibility. The longer you stay in one place, the more normal that place feels. Even if it's limiting, even if it's underpaying you, even if it's not developing you, you just adjust downward without even noticing. Getting fired breaks that normalization. Suddenly, you're exposed to new salary ranges, new role definitions, new company cultures. You see what else exists. And sometimes it's better than what you had. Not because you got lucky, but because your previous environment was smaller than you thought. And that's a hard realization, but a useful one. Here's another quiet upside. You learn how much of your security was real and how much of it was assumed. A lot of people feel stable in a job simply because they haven't been tested. Then they get fired and realize they can find another role, or they can't, at least not easily. Both outcomes teach you something real. Either you discover resilience you didn't know you had, or you discover gaps you were ignoring. Both are valuable because clarity is more useful than comfort. Comfort hides risk, and clarity lets you manage it. There's also a reputation shift that can happen, even if it sounds counterintuitive. When you leave a company involuntarily, you are no longer tied to its internal politics. Inside, your reputation is shaped by a small group of people, or one. Have you ever had that experience where it's like that one manager just hates you and that is your reputation? Outside of the company, it's shaped by how you present yourself and who you connect with next. It gives you room and freedom to rebuild, and in some cases, to improve your positioning, especially if you were undervalued. Now, none of this means getting fired is good. It's disruptive, it can be stressful, and can create like painful financial pressure. That's all real. But the system underneath doesn't care about fairness, it responds to movement. And getting fired forces movement. Movement is going to create options, will create leverage, and leverage is the whole game. People who never get pushed out often stay too long. They become highly adapted to one environment and less competitive in the broader market. Their skills narrow, their network shifts, their expectations settle. And when they finally have to move, it's even harder because they waited too damn long. Getting fired earlier interrupts that pattern. It gets you engaged with the external market. It forces you to stay aware of your value. It makes you practice telling your story. And that skill matters more than people think. Because your career is not just what you do, it's how your work is interpreted. And that's why two people with similar experience can end up in really different positions. One knows how to translate their experience into value, the other assumes it speaks for itself. It doesn't. Early in my career, I had to terminate someone who had been in the same role for 25 years. Accounts payable, stable, predictable, repetitive. Then the system changed. New software, new processes, new expectations. From the outside, it looked like a normal upgrade. From the inside, it broke this employee. Not suddenly, slowly. Her confidence dropped first, then her speed, then her willingness to even try. Every day became heavier. You could see it in how she sat at her desk, in how she hesitated to do even simple tasks, in how quiet she got. No one says this part out loud. Long tenure doesn't mean alignment forever. It often means inertia. The system moved, she didn't, and the gap became visible. That's where people misunderstand performance problems. They assume it's about effort, but most of the time, it's about colliding fit with change. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't dumb. She was just out of place in this moment of time, and she knew it. That's the part most managers miss. By the time someone is underperforming in a stable role they've had for years, they usually understand what's happening already. They feel it before it's measured. They don't just act because leaving is risk and staying is familiar. So they tolerate it, and it creates this trap. Tolerance stretches longer than it should. Discomfort becomes routine. Routine becomes the new identity, and identity becomes hard to break even when it's hurting you. So the system has to break it for you. And that's what getting fired does. It ends a situation you didn't have to leverage to end yourself. Security is not staying somewhere forever. Security is being able to move when something stops working. She didn't have that, so she stayed, and it made her miserable. The day I terminated her employment, I did what you're trained to do. Clear language, this is a final decision, here's your severance, here's the next steps. It's procedural. You're taught as an HR person to manage the moment. What you're not taught is what happens underneath the moment. She started crying, and this part made sense to me, but it was the hug part that didn't. Not until she said it. She felt so relieved, not a little, immensely. Think about that. 25 years in a row, months of dread, every morning walking into something you know you can't keep up with anymore, and then someone ends it for you. No more pretending, no more slow decline, no more pressure to become someone you're not, just an ending. Clean, final, forced. That's what she was reacting to, not the loss, the clarity. And this is what people miss. Ambiguity is heavier than bad news. So when you're struggling in a role, the worst part is not failing, it's the in between. Am I okay or not? Can I recover or not? Will this get better or not? That uncertainty drains people. Getting fired removes it instantly. You go from maybe to definitely. And definitely, even when it's negative, can feel lighter. And that's why getting fired might make your day. Not because it's good, but because it ends something that was quietly ending you. Work, the system, does not reward honesty about misalignment. People don't raise their hand and say, this no longer fits me. They wait, they hope, they adjust downward, they protect their paycheck. Meanwhile, their confidence shrinks and they slowly die inside. Their reputation drifts, their energy disappears. Invisible people don't get options. And long before they leave, many people become invisible. That's the real cost, not the termination itself, the slow fade before the termination. Getting fired interrupts that. It forces a reset, it forces movement, and movement create options. Options create leverage, and leverage in your career is the whole game. Most people don't realize how constrained they are until a constraint is removed. A job can feel like stability, but it can also quietly become a cage that you have agreed to stay inside, especially when you've been there a long time. Because leaving would mean something has changed, and people don't like change. They protect the past version of themselves, the competent one, the comfortable one, even when it no longer matches the current reality. So they stay past the point where it makes sense to stay. And that's where people get this wrong. They think loyalty protects them, and the system is actually rewarding adaptability. It's rewarding relevance. It's rewarding people who can move with change or move away from it, not people who endure this type of misalignment indefinitely. She couldn't make that move herself, so the system made it for her. And in that moment, what looked like loss from the outside felt like relief on the inside. And that doesn't mean you should want to get fired. It means you could pay attention to the conditions that make it feel relieving when it happens, because that feeling doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from a prolonged misfit, a quiet dread from knowing something's off and not acting on it. If the end of something feels like a release, the problem wasn't the ending, it was how long it took to get there. A job isn't something you hold on to at all costs. It's something you evaluate continuously. Does this still fit? Am I effective here? Is the system moving in a direction that I can move with? If the answer drifts too far too long, the outcome is predictable. You either leave or you'll end up being removed. And when that removal feels like a relief, it's not because you lost something valuable. It's because you were carrying something that had already stopped working. Could getting fired be a good thing? Are you waiting to be fired right now? Because losing your job might actually be a good thing. And that's how work works.